King's Cross used to be the pulsing heart of Sydney's nightlife. In 2014, the state government introduced 1:30 a.m. lockout laws, which apply to all venues within the CBD and King's Cross. The laws were a reaction from the state government in order to stem the tide of alcohol-fueled violence in the city. It all came to a head when 2 young men were killed by coward punchers in King's Cross. The lockout laws have had a ripple effect, resulting in many late-night venues in King's Cross struggling to stay open because of a lack of trade as the crowds they rely on abandon the area. We followed the ripple effects to Newtown to see how the area has been affected. Hannah Southcott has more.
By day, Newtown is a bustling shopping street, full of colourful characters, restaurants, music and art. Newtown has long been the alternative escape for many from the mainstream scene of Sydney's CBD. It's a typical Saturday in Newtown. This means market stalls, cafe brunch and today, the launch of a new book, Humans of Newtown. Jenny Leong, Newtown's MP, is here to support her community.
We say around Newtown it's not about tolerance, it's actually about celebrating difference and being able to celebrate that diversity with a level of enthusiasm.
Monica is one of the unique humans of Newtown who feature in the book. She's worried about the effect that the King's Cross and CBD lockouts have had on Newtown.
Since the lockouts, it's just a little bit more uncomfortable when you're out drinking. I think the crowd has changed a fair bit, and I guess it's because they have nowhere else to go, so they come here.
And it wouldn't be a proper Newtown gathering without the Newtown and Marrickville Mayor, Mark Gardner.
Well, I'm not just the Mayor of Marrickville, I also live in Newtown, so I know King Street really well. I love the vibe, I love the energy, and I love its diversity.
Newtown by day looks the same as ever. But come back at night and you can easily see that the CBD and King's Cross lockouts have led to a change. Is the quirky Newtown vibe under threat? Jenny Leong thinks it is.
I feel like at a time when it feels like Newtown is actually under threat from the vibe and the kind of place that we love.
Marrickville and Newtown Mayor Mark Gardner blames the King's Cross lockouts for the change.
I don't want to see it become like King's Cross. I don't want that edge of danger that was often at King's Cross. Certainly the one-punch laws were, in my view, a gross overreaction to an incident. And what led to the liquor lockouts probably wouldn't have stopped the tragic deaths of those 2 people who were killed in King's Cross. I'm told that crime rates are up significantly, and I'm told something like 60% increase in violent crime on King Street in the last 12 months. There's a different feel to the crowd that's coming to King Street, and it's a little different to what it used to be. It certainly seems to be larger groups of younger people than we've had before.
It's a Saturday night at the Vanguard, one of King Street's famous music venues. Tonight's act is a collection of rock and roll tribute bands. Tim Claydon, the owner of the venue and the head of the Newtown Liquor Accord, agrees that the Newtown vibe is changing.
Because you'll see an increase in alcohol-related incidences in licensed venues. When you've had 4, then all of a sudden you get 12 in one venue, then your percentages go up 80% and it looks so bad, but number-wise it's not as bad as the percentages, but percentages can work either way.
Back at King's Cross, the streets are quiet, and an area that once boasted 20,000 partygoers in an evening is deserted. The lockouts were supposed to stop rogue drunks and drug-fueled thugs from coming here and being violent. Instead, what was once Sydney's vibrant Golden Strip will likely turn into an upmarket residential area in coming years. But nightclubs aren't the only ones feeling the impact of the lockouts. Shop owners like Mohammed Gendi are struggling to stay afloat in the changing climate.
Definitely after the lockout, it's good.
This was the once famous Hugo's Lounge. Now the doors are shut and the building is just a husk of its former glory. It's a lesson for the venues in Newtown, which have decided to voluntarily bring in their own brand of lockout.
We just kind of want to put the message out before summer that don't come to Newtown after 3. We don't want intoxicated people coming as a kind of a last resort place to drink in Sydney. So we just want to kind of put that message out early and try to keep Newtown the same way it is at the moment.
Unlike the 1:30 a.m. lockouts that suffocated King's Cross, the Newtown lockouts are venue-driven. They have pass-outs available for patrons who want to see a friend off or grab a bite to eat, and exemptions for people working in hospitality so they can have a beer after work. As Newtonians fight to save the vibe of their quirky suburb, other people are fighting for Sydney's nightlife more generally, including the live music scene. Tyson Coe hosts FBI music show Loose Joints and leads Keep Sydney Open, a group challenging the lockouts.
Since the lockouts, the acceleration of the venues that have closed down has just been increased exponentially. So we've had places like Hugo's, which was an iconic venue which launched a lot of electronic acts, like, for example, a Sneaky Sound System and also Bag Raiders. Bands ultimately have to compete for a limited amount of stage time. Having live music that would often be subsidised by DJs and people coming through the doors after midnight. So in reducing the amount of time that DJs can play, those venues don't become viable, so all the operation before midnight also gets jeopardised as well.
The voluntary Newtown lockouts are being tentatively supported by politicians and residents alike. However, thousands of Sydney-siders recently took to the streets to protest the lockouts and the devastating effect they've had on Sydney's nightlife. If these protests continue, the New South Wales government will be under pressure to review the laws. But what are some alternatives to the lockouts?
The answer isn't restricting access to liquor or restricting access to late night venues. It's about education, and it's about inclusiveness and, I don't know, changing people's attitude.